Good morning. Welcome back to Hybrid Theory. I'm Aurian Archive, and over the weekend, somebody asked for a invuln super strength tank build, and I ran up a couple different revisions, and well, they were spin-offs of ultimately a invuln, or rather super strength invuln brute. Now, there's a bit of a history here, going back to the Paragon and Cryptic servers, the live servers for City of Heroes, and on those live servers, the super strength power rage could be double stacked, and what that meant is that when you click rage, and we'll come up here, you see the rage icon appears up here in the top on your status bar, you could have 2 stacks of rage running on a character with a high enough recharge. And if you had basically, if you refreshed rage and had it stacked before rage timed out, you would not experience the special debuffs that rage implies, which are minus 99, literally minus maximum amount of damage on self. Your damage graders, even if you have full fulcrum shift on you, if you're damage capped, you're still put all the way at 0 damage. You lose minus 20% defense debuff, and you also lose 25% of your endurance. Avoiding this crash was considered a good thing, so most players, once Invention Origins hit, started going after recharge on super strength builds, because if you avoided the rage crash, everything was good. In fact, both Cryptic and Paragon admitted in playtesting that super strength was unplayable. By their own definitions, unplayable, untenable with the full rage crash hitting the player. The only reason they never fixed that is because it was almost trivial to get enough recharge and sink enough uh, recharge into the power itself to make it perma and thus avoid the rage crash. Well, over the life of the secret server, as work was done to fix the engine, make things work on a maintainable code base, somebody fixed a bug that, well, didn't appear to have anything to do with super strength. It was a calculatory bug in the background. Unfortunately, it had everything to do with super strength because that error in the code was what allowed super strength rage to stack on itself, and by fixing the legitimate calculatory bug, the full rage crash is imparted upon the player. Up to that point, I had never made an invuln a character. I'd never made a super strength character. I just wasn't interested. Well, now that there were a number of players on the secret server who were complaining that uh, invuln is now unplayable, you broke it, you ruined it, I went, okay, they're exaggerating. I'm the best builder there is. I probably know more about the intent of the builds than anyone else. I mean, that's a statement of fact. I There may be a few people who might know more simply because they are better at understanding what the design goals were, and those would be the actual power developers. There's not anyone else out there who's better than me at making builds and figuring out how to make things work. How do we work within the constraints? So I went, okay, I can make a build that will make super strength playable. And this is revision 5 that I'm on. It's not my most recent revision. I did a spin after this, after I took this into practical play. And by practical play, I don't mean I go into an Architect Entertainment farm, set up a very specific encounter. I mean I go and actually play content that everyone else plays. I go and run task force. I go and run missions. How does it actually work in a team? And the conclusion I came up to after multiple revisions and multiple tweaking and giving you a quick run through the badges is okay. I don't really have a lot of badges in the defeat section. And we go to achievement. Okay, I picked up a few badges here. And we go to accomplishment, and okay, we've picked up a few badges here. So, uh, can show from badges, this has not been a one-shot, no-play character. It's done a number of events in game. And my conclusion was, this is unplayable. I mean, this is legitimately an untenable, uh, an untenable. I'm really just I'm lost. I'm really lost at word for how bad it is. But instead of trying to explain how bad it is, well, so let's just start up an ITF. So I'm starting up an ITF. I'm at +2 X8, and let's say this is uh, a normal setting for a invuln character to probably be good at. We're going to basically give my character the best chance possible to survive in the upcoming fight. So we're going to turn off unnecessary toggles. We're going to turn the desired toggles on. We're going to be up here in our window. We're going to be looking at our defenses, and we'll do hide all powers. In this case, we have identical defenses across smashing, lethal, fire, cold. So anytime the smashing lethal change should Uh, anytime that we see smashing and fire change, that'll tell us what our extrapolated defense is. We're going to toss in energy defense, and we'll move it up, up, up. Okay, so that all three of our defenses are at the top, and we'll go and we'll look over at our resistances. Our resistances probably won't change, but we can see we are stacked at 90% smashing resistance. And we'll add in energy resistance, even though it's not going to be applicable to this character until we reach the Nictus. If we reach the Nictus, this could be a little painful. Alright, so there we are, and we'll do a quick rundown on how this build is supposed to work. Rage, of course, is cranked all the way full on recharge with adjusted targeting. And we have it calculated. It's enough to be Parma. We have our Hecatomb on Haymaker. We've got the Recharge Fury bonus on Punch. Foot Stomp picks up our chance for regen plus endurance discount. Resist Physical Defense is hosting our, Gladiator's Armor. Temporary Invulnerability picks up our max HP cap. Dull Pain has rocked all the way out with Preventative Medicine. And then we're picking up some fire, more smash lethal. And here we're just picking up an endurance discount. And there's our scaling defenses for bringing up our resist as HP falls. Kick is not plus or whatever. It's mostly here for the lethal smashing defense. Tough is here for the fire cold defense. Traditional sliding on weave with a lock at the camera for the recharge. Cross punch. Alright. Cross punch is one of the powers when I was working on this build, when I was trying to somehow close the AoE damage gap, I picked up cross punch. Now, there's a better power to take now I think, and on a more recent build. That's what I have to work with right now. And then we have super speed, hasten, because you needed hasten for the most amount of rage stacks you could get going, combat jumping, gloom, dark obliteration, and darkest night. So that's our slotting, that's what we got to work with. Let's get in and mix it up. Alright, and now that we're starting the mission, I'm going to toss Rage on auto. So that's control, left click, and we're going to go ahead and crank Dull Pain, and we're going to crank Ageless. Alright, now we are set up for the best possible. These guys are iconic purple. Just so we have a look at our incarnate abilities, I do have a full pump agility. Let's get in here and open this up. And what you may really want to pay attention to is my endurance bar. And we'll actually come back up and we'll do base defense, and we'll do where is it? Maximum endurance, current endurance. We'll monitor current endurance. So you have it there on the bar, and rage has just come up. Current endurance down to 68. And current endurance down to 57. It's like I'm living, I'm doing damage. And we're smashing defense at 48, 47. We're doing pretty good on our defenses right now. Current endurance 35, 40. And we're getting a timeout on the first rage. It's up here flashing. There it goes. 6%. 8% endurance. One mob. Yeah. That's how close it gets. And this is only a highly optimized build that has access to incarnate powers. Well, what happens when you take incarnate powers away? Yeah, when you're trying to play this at lower levels, Invuln's lack of endurance return is a huge problem, even under the best of circumstances. But coupled with super strength and that debuff, and here we go, we're timing out again. Keep an eye on the defenses. There we go. We are down to 30-something defense, 40-something defense. Our defenses are way, way down. Okay, there we go. They're back up. Way down, back up. And we may about to go splat here. And there we go. Yep, toggles off. Can I get the toggle back up in time? Get dull pain up. Let's take care of the sealer. Oh, nope, toggles down again. Defense all the way down. Can I get toggles up in time? Come on, Toggles. Come on, get back up. Alright, Ageless is back. Ageless is back. Come on. Alright. So far, we're doing fairly decent against enemies that mostly do smashing lethal damages. They do have a bit of a defense debuff, but I am, for the most part, able to hold them off. And with various incarnate powers, survive long enough I probably should be watching my damage, because I think I just wasted a gloom there that did 0 damage. And there we are, we're cratering endurance again. Ageless is still 50 seconds out. There went endurance, there went my toggles. Can I get toggles up in time? Can I get toggles up in time? Come on, toggles, get up. Down. Alright, now, this build is highly optimized to survive through the crash. It's got, by using Gloom, by using Darkest Night, I can take away enemies' ability to hit. Or Gloom and Dark Obliteration. Using Darkest Night, I can take away some of their damage. So I can survive through the attacks. But there's a limit on how far this can go. Now, I'm not even running at the top tier levels of difficulty. This is only plus 2x8. Again, this is something you may expect from running with a full team. Now, with a full team, you'll have some support. But what if you're the best player on the team? What if you're the only one with slots? What if you're the only... what if you've gone into ITF and you've got a bunch of 35s on your team? So they don't have all of their powers yet. Yeah, this gets ugly very quickly, and a large part of how this build works is entirely predicated on using incarnate powers to patch over the holes, which is the point of incarnate powers. Especially the alpha slot, it's supposed to be something that you use to patch over holes in your build. And if you, say, take the alpha slot away from some level 50 task forces, you put holes back into the game that haven't been there for a very long time. I'm not saying it's a bad design decision. I am saying that it's a design decision that needs a little bit more thought than simply slapping it on and saying, okay, to get Master of Badges, you need to turn your incarnate powers off. I think that's kind of missing the point of the incarnate system as it stands. But again, if the incarnate system was being expanded, okay, you can already get to game breaking with some builds, but I'm not really sure they qualify for a Master of. This may qualify for a hardcore, old school, some other kind of name rather than Master runs. Because if you're doing it, if you're trying to run content that wasn't around pre-incarnate, and then you're taking incarnate powers away from those newer items, it's a really tacky situation, and it's really bad, especially for sets that are fundamentally broken. Now, the problem with Invuln do scale up and down. And so we'll go ahead and quit Task Force, and we'll head to Ouroboros. And the real... I do have Ouroboros unlocked, don't I? Yes, I do. There it is. That's Ouroboros. And we'll just run into Ouroboros. Kind of point this out. From a design perspective, Rage comes relatively late in a build. I mean, this is... Let's go look it up. Rage, according to this, is available at level 18. Okay, so it's not that late. You can still get it on a Positron task force. So let's go and look at something that is down in that level. And we'll change our difficulty here for this. And we'll go to... we'll go do Synapse. Or no, let's go. Go look at Positron. So that'll be Steel Canyon. I know I could have just used the LFG queue to go straight there. I did go north. No, I went south. I can't tell directions today. Oh well. Alright, so I guess we'll go look at Synapse. Because, okay, in Synapse you're gonna have probably a few more slots to play with. And just kind of watch the recharge timing on Rage for a moment. Because as soon as I click into Synapse, and also keep track of these figures up here. So there's Synapse. Agree to form his task force. Okay. My defense is cratered all the way down to 18%. Rage takes off 20%. I'm literally going to lose all my defense, everything that I've got. The instant of rage timer kicks off. Excuse me, I need to find a different. Oh, I know how I can do it. I much prefer having a mute button on the microphone. Anyways, so as soon as the rage timer kicks off, at lower levels, you lose absolutely all defense on any defense-based character. And you've got even less opportunities to recover endurance. You're going to have less. Let's go to combat attributes and let's look at endurance recovery, our recovery rate, and we'll turn power sources back on. Now again, highly optimized build, so I've got a number of purples in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got maximum amount of 4% endurance recovery. I've got at least one large improved recovery bonus at this level, and I've got Namina's proc. Alright. And if we look over our powers, and I think our large is coming from one of the ATOs. Yeah, here it is. No, that's purple. That's a 4%. Where is the large coming from? Huh, not sure. Because everything in here is plussed. That's 4%. That's 4%. That's doesn't have one. 2. 1, 2. I don't know. Oh, there we are. Gladiator's armor. Okay, so that's where that's coming from. And again, highly optimized build, trying to squeeze out as much endurance recovery as possible. Alright, so Rage absolutely destroys Super Strength as a set. The problem is, from a design standpoint, all super strength has in respect towards attacks, it's just smashing lethal. Without rage, it's a lesser damaging version of energy melee or street justice. Or it's less damaging than every other set. Super strength only stands out as a high damage dealer with rage. But once you take rage out of the equation, super strength is a dramatically underperforming set. It needs rage to be effective. And on the various DPS calculation charts that have been done, alright, and here's something that's going to be kind of important. Since we are so low, our endurance consumptions, let's see if I may be close to maxing out our combat attributes, so I want recovery rates. Monitor recovery rate. Alright, current endurance, 78, recovery rate 2.75 endurance per second. And we're just going to, oh, right, that's the other thing that I want to keep an eye on. Close some of the stats so it's easier to track, and we want damage bonus, monitor damage bonus. And we kind of want to look for the rage crash on our damage bonus. And you can see with rage up, we are pushing, between rage and fury, we are pushing a substantial damage bonus. And now we're just kind of rooting for the crash to come back around. And you can see that my endurance is cratering, so we'll turn super speed off, so our endurance doesn't drop as fast. It's still going to drop some. And as you can plainly see, I'm actually using kick on this build to add in some extra damage. Okay. And our current endurance is down to 55. And there we go, we're starting to get some back. And this is often a commentary from other players. Well, why don't you just stop and rest? Because resting breaks the game. It breaks the, there we go, 0, and you can see all the way down -9 something damage. So, doing absolutely no damage at all, but I can still spend endurance. And there we go, our current endurance is all the way down to 27. Alright. So, I'm pretty sure I've made my point now. Even in casual play, solo, one player versus the enemies, Super Strength's Rage Crash is an absolutely abhorrent disaster. At full effect, it's too punishing. It's too many debuffs. I mean, if it was just endurance crash, it'd be fine. If it was just minus damage, it'd be fine. What are the other ones? Okay. So our total amount of debuffs is minus damage, minus defense, minus end. Just one of those is punitive. All three of them together with no exposed method of canceling that crash, because the method of canceling that crash was fixed. And I don't argue against the fixing of the bug. And the legitimate when you add 2 plus 2 and you get 5, yeah, that's a bug. Yep. Not probably, it needs to be fixed. But even just in casual play, solo, at low levels, and imagine if I was trying to do this on a team that doesn't have a whole lot of buffs, or ability to help the player. I'm the brute, so I'm the one who's, or a tank, and I'm the one who's charging ahead, and there we go. We're actually into negative defense. And we've had all our toggles turn on. So that's super strength. It sucks. It doesn't put out the kind of damage that players are expecting it to put out, simply because the crash is now enforced. It's very punitive. It breaks the flow of play. You need a very specialized build. And, okay, a very specialized build, you may be able to make that argument against lots of power sets. The thing is, Invuln Super Strength, specifically, cover a wide array of role-playing ideals. It's the quintessential, the expected Superman combination of super strength and vulnerability, add in energy for the laser beam eyes, and, well, there's your Superman, there's your Captain Marvel, there's your... you could even, with the right costume, make it an Iron Man that's had his laser repulsor, or you could just do the X-ray eyes emanate from the hands, and there you go, you've got Iron Man who's having an energy malfunction and only has one attack range, but he's still got the armor. Invuln is, I don't think, well, with that glow, I'm obviously not running absolutely no minimum effects. That's something where, oh, there we go. 0 damage, so I just wasted an attack. And, yeah, using kick to pull off fatigue on the enemies is kind of hilarious to me. Especially since my character is fatigued. So, but okay, I'm not dying solo. I'm not doing great, but at least I'm not dying. Alright, so let's actually go look at our costume options. Or rather, what options do we have in respect to auras? We are in Steel Canyon, so we need to go north. Okay, I know I could go talk to a trainer. I want to be on the other side of the zone. And, okay, while I'm traveling, there are other armor sets that Rage Crash does not affect as badly. Only it does. If you're running a high-spec, high-performance resist-based build, fire armor, electric armor, uh, you've probably used IOs to get a defensive soft cap to drastically improve your survivability. Well, Super Strength Rage harms those builds arguably even more, because a defense build possibly may be able to get enough defense and enough regeneration going where, okay, they like this one, I can survive through a complete rage crash even in less than ideal circumstances. At the top end with incarnate powers, my survivability increases even more. Some of this costume. It's sort of like, what was? I think this was just a random. I think I hit random on the costume creator and was just so horrified. I did kind of, I think, complete some of the random out to make it look a little. I think this is the original costume. Let's just have a look at this sucker. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this was achieved using random. Uh, and I may have done the color coding afterwards. And if you don't know, in the costume creator, you do have custom sets. And well, she'll run you through sets that are already there. Trying to remember, how do you do a random function, or is this something that's not even in this build? I don't remember. I don't remember how to tell it to do a random costume. Anyway, so um, actually, since we are in here, we'll look at super strength, or rather, invulnerability. Invulnerability does get no effects on temporary invulnerability. Does get no effects on dull pain. Resist elements has no effects. Unyielding, no effects. Resist energies, doesn't have any effects. Invincibility, no effects. Tough hide, doesn't have any effects. Alright, so that glow is actually coming from rage, which the original rage coloring, and I'm not sure there's really a way to tone this down. See what happens when we do that. Just like to glow gray. I think a desaturated blue. Yeah, it's still, you've got some kind of glow coming off of you. A little darker. Let's go a little darker. Yeah, you still got something that says glow, 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 glow. But you can really tone rage down and have a. Uh, or you can go the other way and just go bright yellow. Okay, and now you're a Saiyan. And that's kind of the point where Super Strength and Rage, because of the animation, the just standard punch, jab, punch. And, if you do the original, just has the like the trailing shadow effects. Mm, but you can make it, basically, you can make the character fit a lot of different concepts, which is really the point. One of the reasons why you do see so many players who have invuln super strength something. A lot of there's a lot of concepts that the combination fits, and that's why this is, again, I never made one on the live server, wasn't interested in making what everyone else had. I only made one when people were saying it's broken. It is. Uh, Super strength, probably, I guess, to reference myself again, I took a challenge a while ago that bioarmor could make anything look good, and so I paired bioarmor with kinetic melee. And bioarmor made kinetic melee, which is still a vastly underperforming set on tankers, brutes, and scrappers. A kinetic melee on stalkers, liquid awesome. Kinetic melee on everyone else, not the actually. I think it's now a toss-up between staff, kinetic melee, and super strength as to what is the least performant melee set. With the enforced rage crash, super strength is definitely down there for everyone who doesn't have an optimized build to counter the crash. And that's kind of the key point here. You don't have to have an optimized build to counter something on staff melee or kinetic melee. They're just bad. They don't do what you would expect them to do. They're not really good at any particular style. They're not. Is some power sets excel at PPOE. Some power sets excel at single target. Some power sets are a nice balance between the two. Some power sets give you a little spines, gives you functionality over distance. Claws gives you functionality over distance. Uh, Radiation melee gives you a defense debuff component. It gives you the drop irradiated grounds. It's the different power sets that they don't have to all be the best at putting down damage if they do something that's very useful right now. One of the I don't want to talk about that because it's still in testing, even though it is working, and I think it's being shown off on. It may have already gone live to Homecoming. I haven't actually checked. Yeah, I know I should have. Anyways, um, so I'm not saying that sets have to be all equally damaging. You know, some sets may be more damaging than others in certain circumstances. Well, in that case, if your elemental set is supposed to be effective against enemies that are weak to that element, those enemies have to have an exposed weakness to that element. If none of your enemies have an exposed weakness and your elemental damages do less damage on average than your non-elemental damages, which is what happened, then your elemental damagers don't do any more damage, or in fact actually do less damage on average than your non-elemental damagers. They don't stand out. And that's kind of uh, a, a statement on fire melee. And fire melee really doesn't stand out because you don't really have any enemies that fire melee excels against. Even though there's a number of enemies who you should be able to, once you torch them, they should go down like something that's been set on fire, and they don't. Uh, and that's okay, you know. You have electric melee. It's middle of the road pack. I don't like it, uh, but it's not bad. It's just middle of the road. Super strength is bad. The rage crash is too much. It's too punitive. It needs to be changed. Now, okay, you may have heard at some point there was talk on changing it, using the branching powers to add inherent strength to, or I think that was the name of it, inherent strength to brutes, to the brute tanker. Let's see if it's even in this build. Nope, not in this build. Okay, inherent strength basically adds a flat enhanceable damage amount to a super strength. So rather than flying into a rage, you are just always super strong. You know, rage itself might be more suited to, say, Super Saiyan. Uh, you get angry, you start punching harder. You know, that's more Hulk, that's more Goku, or well, okay, to be fair, that's more Hulk and more Gohan, because Goku never really gets angry. It's Gohan that gets ticked off and starts throwing punches. Uh, but the inherent strength, when it was tested, was an acceptable substitute. Yes, you did less damage total than absolute recharge packed rage at its complete maximum, but you didn't have to worry about building specifically to counter a specific crash. You didn't have to take extra steps to survive long enough for your normal survivability to return. And it was, as far as I know, never implemented because branching paths tend to be more problematic, and the developer who was working powers at the time decided he really didn't want to start the precedent of branching path for everything. And okay, fair argument. Once you set the precedent that a non-desirable power can be simply branched and a new power offered in its place, well, what happens if the new power completely outclasses the old power? Say, Practice Brawler to Master Brawler. Well, everyone's going to take the massively better power, and then wonder why that massively better power isn't backported across the entire range. And yeah, people going, well, we like the old power even though it's not even less good. I don't want to take the time to change my build. Well, screw you. Sometimes the answer is burn the cottage, burn it down, put a mansion there. burn a cottage, build a mansion. All right. So and so trying to keep on track to super strength. At least two of the debuffs on rage need to go. I'm ambivalent as to which one because okay, for the benefit that it offers, yeah, it does need some kind of counter. And the original developers all admit it, and basically in the same breath, it's why they admit it, why they allow perma domination, in which a dominator class could keep their domination bar perma all the time with enough recharge, and even reach that, even be able to make a build that can keep the domination bar active permanently by themselves with no outside support. And even Cryptic admitted Dominators were fundamentally unplayable. It was the only way they made even any sense as a playable character if they kept permanent domination in, because they had turned it off, and then in playtesting discovered that, well, in order for a Dominator to be playable, they needed to leave it in. And that was the same with Super Strength. At some point, they didn't fix the bug, but they did uh, implement a non-stacking form. They did something to prevent rage from stacking, and promptly discovered, and this was back in 2004, 2005, maybe 2006. This was a long time ago. They discovered that super strength was fundamentally unplayable unless rage was allowed to stack and the debuff was allowed to cancel out. So fixing the bug and not in the same patch fixing rage so that the full effect of the crash is not felt by the players was a screw up on par with putting a perception proc on a teleport travel power. It's face palm to the head. Doing that, what is it, Clint Eastwood looking over the newspaper in the glasses, like, or the collective IQ of this room has just been lowered by what you just said. It's a bad mistake. And for that reason, I honestly, as a player, I can't recommend it anyone make a super strength build. I mean, if you've got a concept where you want to punch things really hard, use Icon to reconfigure martial arts to throw punches. Use Street Justice, or there's nothing to super strength to make it a compelling alternative. It is the bottom tier garbage set right now. And again, kinetic melee and staff melee are, I'm not going to say which one is worse. Personally, I think it's staff melee, because staff melee was sold as, oh, it's a utility set. So you can improve your defenses, and you have these forms that do different things, but the forms are so woefully under. The effects on the forms are so small. It's sort of like it's not even. I should go look at it. Okay, when you have some set bonuses, some sets have lower bonus levels. Like adjusted targeting has increases damage by 2%. A higher tier power increases damage by 4%. Well, the bonuses on staff melee are like, so if this is rare, this is uncommon, then the bonuses on staff melee would be like a fourth of uncommon. They're not even low as uncommon. They're below common. I mean, they're less effective than even just common enhancements would offer. So that's there. I mean, rage makes super strength bad. It makes it bad for all power sets. Not even bio armor can make rage look good. That's really all there is to say about it. It needs to be fixed.